So again, we're here, had a good start yesterday. Getting the media functions right now. The guys are meeting downstairs. We're doing our first practice. First practices are a lot different. Your freshmen basically are all here all summer. They're working out. Quarterback, you don't have on pads and you're not hitting sleds, and the coaches cannot be a part of work where footballs are involved. But it's like day one started back June the 6th. So, it's you see all day, the parents would drop them off yesterday and all the moms were crying and the kids were all whatever. Well, that happened 2 months ago, and so it's like the old calendar, day one is now, it's the first day of official practice. We put a lot of time in our preseason formatting. We start school on the 22nd, I believe it is, so we get into the one-a-day mode at that time. We have a number of practices that we'll do. We've tried to put a lot into working with our team doctors and trainers on building into our contact and how to be a physical Big Ten East football team, but how to take care of your players and how to be able to tackle and block and play behind your pads and play physical, but how to practice and progress in a way that has long-term positive effect through this season, through their careers, through their life, and still be able to play tough line of scrimmage, physical, offense, defensive football. So we'll be playing a lot of guys early in camp because, quite honestly, some of the running volume and contact volume can wear you out come November. And, you're playing 9 Big Ten games. We're playing 10 games in a row. So we've put a lot of thought process into not just what the plays are going in, but kind of the implementation as we go through practice to be physical and be contact ready and be smart and get our team where it can play the type of football we need to be successful with our schedule and with our conference. Again, we're opening with a Thursday night game, so that's a little bit unusual. And then you're coming off of that, playing a game, then it's an early open date. So we've put a lot of thought as coaches into how to get our team right and not under practice, over practice, have the right amount of contact, conditioning level. Our team is reasonably healthy. Some of you watching practice today, some of our older players like Dutra coming off a foot injury. Marcus Oliver's a year off an ACL. So some of those guys, we don't wear them out the first day. You kind of want to, get their bodies and joints. So if you see guys maybe not working with the ones day one or getting as many reps, some of your veteran, Dan Feeney had a Liz Frank injury years ago. And so don't read anything in my world, who goes first or second. Again, we've played 3 quarterbacks, year 1, year 2, 2 year 3, 3 year 4, 3 year 5. So we're going to get a lot of quarterbacks work, a lot of running backs work. So you guys got a roster. We don't have a quote firm depth chart right now. His thoughts. My opinion, I think he's got the skill set to be a very good quarterback. But I also think, last year he was a young man that was coming off a knee injury. He missed basically our summer workouts last year, and so he wasn't ready to play college quarterback as a freshman. He was a good enough athlete. We tried to get him on the field. His thought, as the season ended, he wanted a chance to be quarterback. My thought with him when it ended, if he wanted to be a quarterback, he had a chance to be one, but I felt he was probably a year away from really being good enough. And hey, we just have it as I said, hey, we'll go developmental year, and just we're going to work on throwing. He throws the ball well, but we're going to work on passing and getting the ball on target and throwing in rhythm and understanding and all that. We'll go full tilt all summer, all year. Or if you want to play, you got the skill set to be a very good receiver. And there's no guarantee you're going to start, but odds are your skill set. He played last year and would have played more if he'd have been healthy and been here all summer. So, but the thought was I wanted to go into summer. I didn't want to wait till today and make a move because there's so much work that you can do in the summer. So that way, his thought process was, matter of fact, his dad called and said, "Are you sure?" And I said, I hit him back, like, "Hey, your dad thinks you still want to be a quarterback. What do you want to play?" And he goes, I want to play receiver. So that's where he is. And because I don't want him going back and forth. He does have a redshirt year if needed. But I think he's settled in. He's a big kid. He's a solid 6'4". He's 215, give or take. I think we got 4 receivers over 215, 20, 25 pounds. Not counting Fuchs and Ian Thomas that are athletic tight ends. So we'll have some big targets. So he's a big target, got good skill set. But to me, Chris Covington was different. Same day, he wanted to play defense. And that's where those two guys are.
This quarterback competition right now, and when would
Um, you know, again, nothing new as far as Xander was our most experienced guy, but had a minor deal, but the procedure done, which was a quick recovery, and he was full speed end of April, 1st of May, but he lost his spring practice. So here's a guy that's got the most reps that got no work. You have a junior college player everyone's excited about, but he only has 15 times where I can stand there and watch him throw and give him critique of what he needs to do. And then our meetings that we have in between spring ball when you're watching video. So there's not enough time on task there. And then we're working with Austin King, Danny Cameron, where the other two guys getting the bulk of the work, and we did sign Peyton Ramsey, and Donovan wanted to go back to receiver. So it's 5 guys are in it. We're not going to be equal. Not trying to be fair. A few years ago, I tried to be equal and fair, and all I did was make everybody mad. And they got equal reps and equal throws and equal opportunity, and everybody was getting mad. And we were trying to be so fair to everyone that it's egos got involved. And, the comment I just shared to them is the only person they need to worry about is themselves. Years ago, is one of the most profound statements I ever heard a player say, a college player say. And I don't think I've shared this, I might have, but we were playing in a national championship game, and we had a quarterback that was really good at won the Heisman Trophy. And the team we were playing against had a quarterback that had won the Heisman Trophy. And our quarterback was asked, Sam, how do you compare yourself to Tim Tebow? Now, I knew what I would say, because they're both great players, but they have different skill sets. And his answer was, I don't compare myself to anyone. I was raised to be the best I can be. And that's what we're trying to get our quarterbacks to do. Just do the best you can. Worry about you. We're going to need a lot of you. And then in a perfect world, and again, maybe we need to play more than one. You can sit here and criticize whether you should or shouldn't. Sometimes you need to bring a guy over and calm him down, sit him down a little bit, let him view it over there. I don't know. Well, it's going to play out. But the great thing is, those guys do not need to truly be the team leader right now, because you got 4 fifth-year seniors, 2 fifth-year running backs, quality receiver in Semi, a quality running back in Divine. You got Danny Friends, a 4th-year tight end. You got veterans at every position that the team can be led, and the quarterbacks can just worry about themselves and quarterback right now. The leadership comes with the position, and it'll come with time, but that cumbersome burden can be lifted off their shoulder, and they can just worry about them and playing ball. And that's what we just expressed to them, and we'll go. I do think, looking at it, though, and based on some things that we've seen in our total work, Diamont and Lego will get the bulk starting, and we'll see between Danny and Austin and the freshman Peyton Ramsey the reps that they deserve and what they get. And that's why today we'll do 2 7-on-7 drills to get not only the quarterback. Coach McCullough's got a number of running backs. Ian Thomas needs reps. Austin Doris needs reps at tight end. The young receivers need reps. So we'll have a little bit of work today in 2 groups to try to get the play volume that some of these young arms and these kids need. Well, he fumbles the ball like that. He was a great player. He's very, very smart. He's well trained. When you start and you spend 11 years with Coach Levitt building a program from scratch, it was about player development. And then you work with Rich Rodriguez for those years. And in our world, my background, I played it, was very well coached in college by John Matsko. He's still the line coach of the Panthers, been in the pros since '93. Coach Buckness, he was an awesome coach. I had no idea. Then I GA'd for Bill Stewart, who was unbelievable, passionate, and, the late coach that passed a few years back. And so you got those guys, and Randy Walker's a run guy. In my background, who touched me? Well, then you throw James Patton in the mix. And even though he's not a line guy, that's a 3rd line coach in our room. And of all those guys, I think Greg Fry's our best coach. He is very demanding, and you've got to understand him pushing you, and because you can have some pushback. But he's consistent in what he does. He's very knowledgeable. I think he's been able to attract personalities that fit him and fit what we want to do, because there's a personality of not just what a lineman is, but a person that relates to you as a coach. And so he's done a great job recruiting. I know Kevin John said this year he's probably the best effort attitude coach he's ever been around, and just coaching the effort and the mindset and the development of the position. So, I mean, he's a tremendous coach, and we're blessed to have him. He's got some good support with Coach Pat. But again, a lot of people would say, having Coach Buck would tell you that the hardest position to coach is the head coach's position. And I'm a line guy. And I seldom, if ever, walk to his drills or walk in his room because I have a great deal of confidence and we're on the same page. And he does things different than I, but man, his players perform and he gets them ready to play. Same with Dylan McCullough. Those are two coaches that really, they're player-driven. They work their players hard. They have a high standard. They don't lower the standard. They push their best players to be the best. And those are we got a lot of really good coaches, but those two guys do a great job.
Twitter rules that allow you guys to retweet your favorite things.
Yeah, that's a good question because like this, we started putting out at so many days to kickoff, and my comment was I'm not putting it out because if I miss one day, somebody's mad at me. Or I just forgot or wasn't thinking about it. So it's kind of nice, but you got to be careful with it. So, but the kids all think it's cool, I guess. Our thing is by rule, basically like or favorite something they do. You just can't have a personal comment. So, but it gets scary where all of a sudden you didn't mean to, but you did. In my world, like right now, I'm getting a bunch of texts from people saying, "Hey, hope you had a great summer. Best of luck this season." And it's just a phone number. Well, if I reply to that and it happened to be a sophomore recruit, that's an illegal text message. So I'm saying, like, who's this number? And then sometimes I get a buddy mad at me because I didn't log him in, or a friend or a neighbor, and I'm thinking it might be a recruit. So, social media is a big part of recruiting, and we started liking a few. It's also more work.
We've talked a lot in the spring about being veterans for the quarterbacks, being consistent for them, and making it easier as you broke in Richard and the younger guys. But what do you need from that group, in particular those three at the top, as you get into fall camp?
Well, and it starts with those three, but we do need more than three. We're going to play 8, 9, 10. And so we're going to need Westbrook, Timian, and those freshmen coming in. It'd be nice to see because, again, the volume of work that those guys get can be taxing as you go through the year. So it starts with those three, but the first thing is we have to develop the position. The second deal is just because you've had a good year doesn't ensure you're going to have another one. So for us, the best way for them to have a good year is it starts with consistency in practice and practicing hard and playing hard without the ball, because if we can run the ball, it gets them one-on-one matchups. And so their ability to block the perimeter, which allows us to run the ball better if our line, tight end, and run game can get going, then if you don't put the numbers to stop the run, you're going to have a really good running attack. And that being said, the more consistent they are and the better they practice and the better they play without the ball, then here comes the passing yards, because really you get one-on-one matchups. Because if people are dropping 8 and playing bracket coverage and they're in and out, the windows and spaces get tight. So when those guys want their individual personal success, it kind of starts with daily practice habits. You should have confidence. You should have belief, not confidence. We've changed the word from confidence to belief. You should have belief. I believe I'm pretty good. I can make some plays. But if they're not, taking care of their body, keeping their legs fresh, keeping their bodies right so that they can practice hard enough, and if they don't block the perimeter and play well, if the corner can beat the outside receiver one-on-one to stop those bubble passes, they can load the box to stop the run, and if one guy can beat one guy's block and stop the bubble, then the run game's no good. And so their ability to block and play without the ball creates so much of what we do. And if you watch this day, we'll do a little bit more than normal because it's no pads the first 2 days, it's helmets only. There'll be more throwing and more perimeter. But if you watch this play, Coach Johns will spend about as much time in teaching the fundamental part of staying on a block as he will catching. And we're coming out of summer where you practice catching all the time because there's no pads. Without overhitting, we got to get those receivers back into that being a teammate and playing without the ball. Yeah, that was kind of, I just said, hey, that's kind of interesting. And we introduced him as a new player yesterday. I said all the newcomers stand up and say hi. So he actually started the welcome. He always was a good athlete, was an invited walk-on. Initially he would try to call him, hey, we got the fraternity league player out there from the intramurals over here playing little tag ball, and no disrespect to fraternities. But he grew for that. Last year, you know, we were really concerned with Shane Wynn graduating and now Jay Sean hurt, and that slot's always been a unique position. Even going back, the kid at Oklahoma, Ryan Broyles, had 133 catches one year. It's always been a spot where, you know, a guy did a lot for you. And for him to answer the call last year the way he played was huge. So that helped the team a lot last year. But now what it gave him, he's got probably as much self-confidence and self-esteem and self-worth as many players on our team. He's playing with he's really grown. And there's some physical maturity, stronger. But just the way when it was time to play, plays very confidently. He does a great job at taking care of it. But he's a heck of an athlete. Now, he's a tremendous golfer. I think he said a couple years ago he scored like 46 in an intramural basketball game. He's a really good athlete. And those walk-on guys have been big for us. We got a number of walk-ons. Matter of fact, we have actually with our rules, our walk-on programs got good enough that we have several solid walk-ons that aren't here today because we can only have 105. And when school starts, you know, we'll get those numbers back up to, we'll add about 10 or 12 more guys. I think we scored 9 touchdowns the last 3 games with guys last year that started their careers walk-ons. We had 17 walk-ons on the bus when we went to West Lafayette of the 70 travelers. So those guys, we talk about all the recruiting stuff. You know, Coach Alvarez says years ago at Wisconsin, don't minimize your state coaches and coach association, but what the walk-on players can do. And a lot of walk-ons are in-state kids because they love the school and it's the in-state deal. So I appreciate the way Mitchell plays, but he's in that line of those walk-ons, and I love those guys and appreciate what they do.
With an offensive background, as a guy with an offensive background, Kevin, how do you know, when you're up against a defense that plays nickel as its base, how does that change what you try and do in attacking?
Quite honestly, because we're a spread team, you typically see that most weeks. So it's kind of really the only thing that's happened for the bulk of what we're doing is we're starting with nickel instead of saying we're a 3 linebacker team and going to nickel. Right now we'll be a 5 DB team that will go to 3 linebackers when you go in short yardage or big boy personnels, or teams that are more traditional with 2 tights or 2 backs in a pro formation kind of deal. The coverage tweaks are minimal. The linebacker typically a lot of times plays a little bit closer. Even when he's in space, he favors the line of scrimmage. That being said, the safety gets out there on an island one-on-one. The DB favors the receiver more, which means he's a little bit more of a coverage guy. That means the safety's got to be the extra guy. So it's kind of like instead of going back or safety, you're going nickels. It's still the same gaps. It's still the, you know, it's just different responsibilities. But it's not. To me, the real thing is as we go through the year, and we'll be interested to see. But I think with Coach Allen, outside of his ability to lead and communicate and set the standard, I think his package. One, I think having practiced and gone against Coach Freeze at Ole Miss for several years, got a little immune to no huddle offense. Doesn't think it's stressful. I call it college football. College football is going fast and zone read and spread out. Here we go. It's college football 101. Used to be I formation and we're wearing out pads and just slamming that ISO play after play after play. And so, you know, to me, his background just he doesn't stress out about the no huddle. And I think he's got little things in his package where he can tweak and complement blitzes and coverages where I think he's a little bit more multiple and can get the things where it's not just one base coverage. Hey, you're doing this. I'm going to bracket this way. I'm going to leverage this way. I'm going to get you help over top. I'm going to blitz you this side. You know, it seems in their mindset that, and again, it's the defense that TCU runs. You know, I mean, it's not radical from what we've been doing. The radical deal would just be holding our guys to really playing up to their talent level.
In recruiting, are you looking for different types of bodies, different types of bigger athletes when it comes to the defensive line?
No. Well, I mean, you know, things go in cycles. I felt a few years ago we were getting a little small at receiver, and I think there was a year not only we have quarterback issues, but we were slight at receiver, and our league's a big league. It's a big game that, they have, in wrestling and boxing, weight divisions, and so at the same time you do have to move. But we've always, this class has a chance to be a little bit more in the bigger bodies. as we go through. We'll still need to balance it out with some skill. But defensively, you don't have a senior on the back end. Your only two seniors on the back end will be T.J. Simmons at linebacker and Dawson Fletcher. So, we lost some players last year up front. Same thing O-line. So it's a little bit more of a big guy class. Not by design. It's just, the way some guys have developed or not, or, they're still with us or not. That's just a little bit of void, and you're kind of recruiting a year or two out too now.
Maybe this would be a smaller class. Are you getting to a point where you might become more selective with guys who take?
Yeah, and again, like right now, we're actually sitting today between 5 or 6 scholarships in hand, I think, for walk-ons for this year. The one thing we do, like when we give a scholarship to a walk-on player, it's 1 year, and that basically goes back into the recruiting pool. And so technically, Mitchell Page and Griffin Oaks are getting their scholarships back. But because there might be some attrition or a guy leave you or a guy get in trouble, when you sign a guy, it's kind of a no-cut contract. When the walk-on gets an unused aid, it's kind of renewed every year. And what that does, that makes our walk-on thing very, very competitive. And those numbers can kick into your recruiting class. And then it'll be interesting with some of our young players. Sometimes the roles of your fourth-year players, we have some guys that didn't want to play this year, or we didn't think the role was good to graduate. So we have every player's on a 4-year track to graduate. With our summer school, everybody's had 6 hours in summer, the freshmen. And typically, if you can take 15 in the fall, but a lot of guys will take 12, but 15 in the spring, they're taking 33 hours in a year. So 3 years out, you got 96 hours. And if you're registered, like a year and a half ago, and there's only 20-some hours to take here. It's like, hey, sometimes you got to start slowing them down. But we got our guys on a 4-year track, so sometimes you get some fourth-year guys that don't play their 5th year, whether they're not having a big role, or sometimes some of those guys, their bodies are beat up. And the way we transform, we love playing so many freshmen. As hard as you work, it's hard to keep doing that for 5 years. So, I think those numbers will get close. It'll be 20s. I don't know if it's going to be 25, but it'll be 18, 19, 20, 21. Because there's just, we can't oversign. We got guidelines and things we have to do. But I like the guys on paper. And I feel good about them saying that. And we've talked about what a commitment is, but, there's a lot of water that goes over the dam, and, and so I don't know what commitments are. I know we feel good about them and honor them, but we read a quote the other day where a kid committed to a school. He thanked everybody for getting there and said, hey, all the other colleges, my recruiting is still wide open. So, it wasn't our school, but also, like I just try to tell you guys, like I understand in this day and age you're committing us, and we're going to honor that. At the same time, too, schools will keep recruiting you. And if you do want to look around, that's your right, but then we have the right to look around, versus it's a two-way street. So.
Living up to the reputation you give me as a punter warrior.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about the punting situation, and is there anybody at this juncture that's stepping in front of anybody else?
Well, the first thing, and we'll start that today. We did a really, and we will not go to today. We'll go on air because we don't have pads. But in spring, we actually kind of went good on good, punt against punt team, and we basically kind of came after every punt. Because, one, the protection up front, we got a great snapper in Dan Gottsel. I think he's one of the best in college, and we lost a good one, and that kid's extremely good. So our snapper, I think, is a solid player, great player. We're going to work a lot with the team because the pressure and stress. Joseph Gideon has a large leg. We have 3 punters in camp. We do have a JC punter coming in, walking on, but sometimes, again, the speed of the game. What we did done in spring, and we won't do it till Friday when shoulder pads come on, but when we line up for punt, it's like 10 guys up, and they're coming hard, and we stay off the punter's leg, but to me, they get rushed. You go out there when no one's there, and you can boom it 50, 60, 70, and Joseph Gideon has a huge leg, but it's his ability to be consistent and get it off on time. So we're going to put a lot of pressure under him. We have a couple guys behind him that we think. We have a young man from Center Grove that was a good punter last year, Drew Conrad. He's a freshman. Been very good in summer. And Cody, say his last name for me. Is it Woolrich? I got to get that right there. It was a junior college kid from California that's been with us since summer, and he has a chance. So my thing is we just got to put enough pressure under those guys. Same at quarterback. We got to put those guys without hitting them under enough pressure that they're, quote, game speed ready. Because what happens to me to punter, Don, is they go from the driving range to now, the stress of all eyes are on me, and here's the snap, and it's happening right now. And we ask them to specifically target certain areas of the field so we don't have to cover 53 and a third yards. We're trying to pin it in. Everybody talks about coffin corner, but a lot of times you're covering 2/3 of the field or half the field so you can squeeze lanes. And the punter, if he can hang you out to dry, if we're covering left and he hits it right, you got issues. And so there's a lot of stress there. So kid's got a huge leg. He's one of our more talented guys. He runs about a 4.4. He vertical like 38, 39 inches. I mean, he's a kid out of Columbus North, Joseph, talented guy, big leg. We'll see if he's going to be a good punter.
Has anybody changed position since spring, or outside of Donovan Hale, anybody else?
Well, Clyde Newton, as a senior, was playing and was the third linebacker that kind of got into the nickel deal, asked if he could play running back. And in our world, we'll see. He's over there now practicing. We might need him, though, in some of our big sets to play some short yardage linebacker. He's played as a true freshman. He's got three, I think as a true freshman, had 15 tackles in one of our conference games. So, I mean, he's got a lot of time over there. I was worried defensively against bigger people. Do they have some of the guys? So we'll see if some of their other players come through with Zeke Walker and Damian Willis and Raekwon Jones and some guys right now that are in those complementary roles. But the thing with Clyde, we'll see if he's a true back or maybe he becomes a big back. Because sometimes in the 4-minute, goal line, 2-minute offenses, maybe we could have a little bit, and we could do that from pistol and being shotgun, or you could go under center. Not that he's a true fullback, but he's 230 pounds, give or take. Same thing with Tyler Natee, who's weighing 280, give or take. And those guys got nice feet, and they're good runners. Clyde ran for 1,900 his senior year of high school, so, we'll see. But he wanted to do that after spring ball, so he did train all summer at running back. I look forward to seeing what he looks like today because I haven't seen him since high school played a position. And we'll use him in special teams. And really outside of that, I think that's kind of it. Yeah.
What's he going to play besides running back?
We'll see. You can use him. He and Clyde will both be bodies that can be used on punt protection and that second wedge because you got fullbacks you have to account for, but they're big enough to take on the rushers and can cover. We'll use them in kickoff return on that second deal with the bloop guys. You got a guy that can actually catch, but got enough substance to help you kick return. There'll be PAT field goal. And then we'll see, Tyler basically played Wildcat quarterback. So, I'm excited to see, and we will start early. We won't do it today because not pads, but we will early in practice see what we got. Because one of the things that we've struggled with is really sometimes the third and short situations, the inside the 20 and 10-yard lines or at the end of the game when you're running a clock out to have those type of bodies. So, I'm excited to see them without pads and in pads, and we'll see if, maybe they're toys that we can play with. We'll see.
It's too big for an offensive line.
Oh, you can be too big. I think some of the, for example, I said this years ago, at tight end, sometimes 6'6" gets too narrow because they get so long they can't bend. A lot of good centers are 6'1", 6'2", nose guards, 6'1", 6'2", because that guy's so tight to you that sometimes a 6'4", 6'5" guy loses leverage. So sometimes it's more about girth and your ability to have flexibility and balance and stay on your feet and your ability to play hard. So you can be too big if you're in poor conditioning level and you can't play hard. You can be 6'4" and look a lot of different ways. And you can be extremely long and big at 6'4". You can be narrow and slight, and everybody's a little bit different. So, but I do think strength and mass is a part of being a big guy. Not necessarily, a lot of great running backs are 5'8", 5'9", but now they're not slight. They got necks and they got substance, and there's not a lot of Adrian Petersons that are 6'1". That are really good. They're fast, but they're not good. A lot of those great backs are 5'9"ish, 5'10". But now they're not small people. They're just not overly tall. And like Shane Wynn wasn't, but man, he had big hands. His kid had big hands. He had long stride length. Here's a guy you didn't think's big. He had certain things about him. He had long stride length. He had big hands. He was actually a little bit bigger than his measurements. And the next kid, the same size, wasn't big enough. And you're trying to explain it to a recruit or a parent or a coach why you like one another. There's different body parts that help make them better than they are. So.
How it came about that you were able to add Mark Hagan back to your staff?
Yeah, you know, when the was thinking about making some changes, and I saw Mark, and one of my first thoughts was what am I doing at coordinator? And I said, hey, and my thing was, Mark's more of a front guy. He coached linebackers down there and hadn't truly been a coordinator, but he was in the back of my thoughts. But the deal was, we had a relationship. He's from here. His family's from here. And when I went with Tom, I came back and said, hey, I'm going to go this direction. But if in the D-line spot, would you want to do this? And I can make it attractive for you. And no guarantee if we ever have Coach Allen were to have an opportunity and move on that he'd be the next guy in line. But, he is that kind of coach. And in my opinion, him having been where he was, because when you're coaching in a place like that and the standard's so high, Mark left here all his years playing here for Coach Mallory, then all his years coaching and the great job and working for Coach Tiller, that's an awesome coach, and the job he did. When he came here, he was a really good coach. He came back 3 years later way better than he left because of the stress and the pressure and the demand and the expectation of playing football at that level. And he's holding our players at a higher standard. He's recruiting at a higher standard. And he left good and came back better. And I'm grateful he's here, and I appreciate he and his family coming back. Anything else?
What are you going to be looking for out of the secondary, right off the bat?
All those guys are back. That is a hard position because for us to play good, you don't stop running games without edge players, whether it be corners, those nickel backers, outside backers, or safeties. Every time when you run the football, everybody says, "What you want to run this play against this and this and this?" I say, "I don't know. You tell me where are those guys I can't block?" And that goes back to Terry Hepner at Miami of Ohio going against him. He would put guys where I couldn't block them. So the ability is, can the secondary support the run? And then because when you stop the run, you can be good up front, but you really stop the run because of your support players. Can the support players stop the run and then not get beat deep? And that's why it's the hardest job. And that's why when they mess up, there's a touchdown. When the right guard messes up, they get the punt. So it is the most demanding position. And one of the reasons why Coach Allen doesn't coach a position, and we've had 5 coaches over there, and one of those is, and I've suggested in years past, you want a position or you want to walk around, it gives him the ability to impact every position. And I think the game is played back to front. So I'm looking for those guys to know how to know where their eyes go, where their fits are, and they can stop the run and not give up the cheap pass. And that's why we have been weak in both areas, okay? Because we're doing one of the really good defenses and the really good packages and the really good coaches, having been with Coach Stoops or Terry Hepner was as good a defensive coach as I've been around, their ability to coach the perimeter and the secondary players and how to support and not get beat. And that's the key, and that's Noah and Shelby's charge, but that's Tom's. That's why Bill's got the backers and Mark's got up front, and Tom can go and be where he needs to coordinate and link all those guys together. Because every time, if I'm a corner coach and I say, hey, now listen, this guy's a good receiver, let's do this. Well, you might stop that receiver, but you're not sound in stopping the run. And that's why it's called coordination. You got to coordinate the group together. So every time defensively, hey, I want to do this because it'll help me stop this play. Well, you get vulnerable somewhere else. And I'm telling you, because the way we are on offense, not just us, everyone, the hardest thing going right now is coaching defense college football because they make you account for the quarterback. You've got the tempo. You're playing the whole field, and every week it's a different animal. And you got to stop option attacks, running quarterbacks, power football, play action pass, tempo, a lot of throwing. Every week they've got 4 days to get ready for something next. Offensively, we're on the same stuff the next week. Hey, on this defense, you run these routes on this defense, but our plays go in, and we just use the plays that work. Defensively, you have to adjust, and the great teams can adjust from the back end. And that's what truly makes a defense. And having everyone back, and I think they have a lot of confidence now in Coach Allen and what they're doing, hopefully that group will be coordinated and those back 7 can play the way they need to play.